Hi, I'm Marcia Lehman, and I'm a Knox County Master Gardener. Today we're going to be pruning a Bushy St. John's wort. Now, there are many species of St. John's wort, so this is another one of those occasions where you want the botanical name. And Bushy St. John's wort is sometimes called dense St. John's wort, but its botanical name is Hypericum densiflorum, hence the dense Bushy St. John's wort. It is a native plant. In this instance, it's in a rain garden, and it will do well in that environment. It is semi-evergreen, and if there's anything negative about it, it's that it can suffer a fair amount of winter kill if the winter is particularly harsh. And so the very first thing we're going to do is get rid of the dead wood. And there's a fair amount here that I can show you. Once we get rid of the dead wood, then we'll look for rubbing and crossing branches. And then the last thing we'll do is thin it out for airflow and sunshine. So let me get rid of my handout, and we'll go down. We'll start at the bottom by taking out the dead wood. I have cleaned out all the leaves that were around the base, and as I just grab some of these stems, this one just breaks right off. So, as I say, it can experience a fair amount of winter kill, but that makes this first step pretty straightforward. Just come in and grab these branches, and if it's dead, it will be obvious that it's dead, and we'll clean that out down here at the base. Now, this Bushy St. John's wort will also spread by suckering. You can start with just a couple of plants and let those suckers go, and you can end up with a nice hedge of this if that's what you want. And in fact, in this case, the garden plan shows that 3 plants were originally installed, and when we were counting, it's like, well, we think we've got 5 or 6 here. So it has spread, and that was desired. This branch is wiggling way too much, so that's going to come off. That one I'm actually going to have to get in here and cut. That was dead. So when you get that dead stuff out, well, there's another one. Just keep wiggling all these branches. And if it breaks, you know, it makes that crispy cracking sound. This has stuff growing. That's green. Okay, so most of that was from the center, what was, you know, the crown of the original plant. And what has happened now is that we've got a sucker coming out here that we're going to keep. But again, we'll pick up, the dead stuff is also light brown, so we'll just keep pulling that until we think we've got it all. And here we've got some nice new green shoots coming up. So we'll let those stay for a while too. If we can zoom in to the center of the plant, here is the original crown, and we've got a nice big stem growing here, which has some dead but also has some live, so that's going to get some selective pruning. And we've got another major stem, probably 1 inch in diameter, coming out here. Then we've got one that's about 1/2 inch that comes out towards the front. That's pretty good spacing, and then we've got a sucker over here. So this is one plant with a few extra suckers, and the spacing of the major stems is quite good. So we're going to keep that. What we want to do now is come in and thin out any rubbing crossing branches, or if we can zoom in here where my hands are, this branch comes up, curls down, makes a great V shape, and comes back up. That's just not natural. So we're going to take that off, and we'll keep these other 3. This one has some more dead here, but it's got a nice branch coming here, which we'll keep that for the moment. That wants to grow kind of forward in towards the center of the plant. There's probably a little more thinning I could do over on this side, but let's come over to this side of the plant, because it has a lot more growth, and we definitely need to do some thinning out here. We have some stubs here from some prior pruning, so we'll clean those up. There's another sucker coming, and coming off this major inch diameter stem, the stem comes out and then several other branches shoot up. So I'm going to do a little bit of thinning, taking out the smaller ones. I won't quite call them spindly, but they're almost spindly. So we'll take off some of those to clear that out. And then this one wants to grow back in towards the others. So at this point I'm trying to thin out the 4 stems that come up off of this major inch diameter branch. And this is the point where you just keep saying, are they crossing rubbing? They go. And if they're growing in towards each other where they will cross and rub sometime in the near future, we'll take them off. And then some of this itty bitty spindly stuff we'll take off. We have things hanging in there. Now here, if we can look at this stem coming up, that's a nice 1/4 inch diameter stem, but as we get up, I don't know if Mother Nature wounded this or if there was a pruning cut, but here at the very end, you can see 3 branches coming off the end. And that's going to make that a little heavy, a little awkward. So I'm going to take the thinnest, weakest of those. And then I'm going to come over here to this one and do the same thing. We'll take the thinnest, weakest. The others have a little bit of head start, so they get to stay. And then this one will do the same thing. And as I go, I still continue to find little pieces of dead stuff. And that's just always going to happen. So now I've thinned this out pretty well. If I look back over here, yep, I see something I want to take off. Now normally the Bushy St. John's wort is fairly dense, and this can be dense with all this growth in here, but more of a mounding shape. So I'm going to actually trim this back a bit in an effort to encourage more lateral growth. Part of the issue is it's probably in a location that is getting not quite enough sun, but we can help encourage that. So for instance, this branch comes up, we've got several. I'm going to take it back to here, and often when we do this, it will encourage lateral branches to come out below where that cut was made. So now that's kind of where I want to go with most of these. I won't get them all exactly the same height, but we'll try and get close. And the key here now, if we look here, the key is to make the cut right above a bud. We don't want to damage the buds, but we want to make a cut right above the buds. If I were to make a cut, I'll make a bad cut, but if I made a cut there, and here are our buds, and I leave 1 inch or 1 1/4 inches of stem, that's just going to decay. So we always want to make the cut right at a bud, right above a bud. And the one thing you notice is the Bushy St. John's wort has opposite branches. Some shrubs alternate, one on one side, then one on the other. These are opposite, so there's always a pair. So I'm just going to come around and make some cuts right above a bud to shorten this a little bit and to encourage it to put out a little more lateral growth. we'll stop the camera for a moment and I'll finish that. And I have finished thinning out and removing crossing rubbing branches and took about a foot off of this plant. So if I just go back, the first thing we did was we took out all the dead stuff starting at the bottom. And the dead is usually pretty obvious. It's a slightly different color. You grab a hold of it, wiggle it, it just breaks off. Then we came up and thinned it out, and then because it should be a little denser than this, we decided to make some heading cuts, and I've taken it back to about chest height on me. So that's, I don't know, roughly 4 feet maybe, a little less. Now if we pan over here to the plant beside it, and I'm just going to take my hands over to here, this is where you can see that we took off about a foot from that plant, and that's to encourage it to become a little more dense. It is Hypericum densiflorum. It should be more of a dense mounding plant, and so far we've got plants kind of stretching for sunlight and not getting as dense as we would like. So I'm hoping that trimming this back a little bit will encourage more lateral branches and help make it look a little more full and make it look a little denser so it can live up to its botanical name. So that is Bushy St. John's wort, Hypericum densiflorum. We hope you learned something today, and we thank you for joining us.